You have said throughout this process that you will support the Republican presidential nominee. Now you have a presumptive nominee, Donald Trump. Will you support him?
Well, to be perfectly candid with you, Jake, I'm just not ready to do that at this point. I'm not there right now. And I hope to, though, and I want to. But I think what is required is that we unify this party. And I think the bulk of the burden on unifying the party will have to come from our presumptive nominee.
As we consider the rise of Donald Trump to a contending role for the presidency, let's ask ourselves, how did this man rise to such a potential position of power? Is it because of his stature as a billionaire, reality show host, self-marketing genius, bamboozling a large part of America, someone who people believe will do what he says because he says it with such fervor, or merely a guy who was at the right place, right time to take advantage of a political party that can't seem to understand who they are and what they really stand for? Let's dig in deep with someone who has been a first-hand witness to the rise from Manhattan and across America. Founder of the Guardian Angels, host of the Curtis and Kuby Show, noon to 3 p.m. and the Drive at 5 from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern, 77 WABC New York City, time slots once held by the legendary Dan Ingram and Cousin Brucey on that very dial position, which shows I was there to listen to him, Curtis Sliwa. Curtis, a pleasure to talk to you again, my friend.
Very good. You make it sound like WABC. The acronym is Always Broadcasting Curtis. Well, sometimes it seems that way.
I like that. Well, go ahead. Take 24 hours, Curtis. Really, it wouldn't be bad. It's good talk radio. But you have been there from day one. You have watched the rise of Donald Trump. Why? What is it about him? And did you expect this to happen? Did you even guess it would happen?
Well, I've actually had a love-hate relationship with Donald Trump preceding my days in radio. We both shared a New York State Conservative Party award in what seems to be in a different lifetime. Although he never struck me as a conservative, he always struck me as a liberal and progressive as he wine-dined and pocket-lined politicians, both Republicans and Democrats on both sides of the aisle, in order to gain access, in order to gain power. And he was always very open about how he did his business. But then I think he realized after many, many temptations to jump in, either to run for the governorship of New York, the presidency back when they were toying with the idea of a Reform Party candidacy, that he figured there was some anger out there. And boy, did he tap into the anger and the electorate now, starting with the Tea Party years ago and just fermenting within the Republican Party. And you've seen it with Bernie, the Altacaca Sanders on the Democratic side. Americans are angry, and Trump has his finger on at least the Republican side of that pulse.
My grandfather would be very happy to hear that I talked to someone who knew the proper use of the phrase Altacaca. Very nicely done, as a matter of fact. Let me get to this because he is the presumptive nominee. But people are scared. There is some leaked audio out right now, acquired by Politico. Senator John McCain's concerns about having Donald Trump at the top of the ticket in November. Here's what he said.
There's Donald Trump at the top of the ticket here in Arizona, with over 30% of the vote being Hispanic vote. I have no doubt that this may be the race of my life. Listen to or watch Hispanic media in the state and in the country. You will see that it is all anti-Trump. That is, the Hispanic community is aroused and angry in a way that I have never seen in 30 years.
Curtis, we keep hearing stories that he has angered the Hispanic community to the point where they simply won't vote for him. We hear the same about the women in America. We hear the same about African Americans. We hear the same about so many different groups. In your opinion, that savvy that Donald Trump has, do you think that he's got what it takes? He's got enough to pull these people back in and have them get on his side?
Well, remember, anything is possible, particularly when you're running against, as he so rightly calls her, the crook. This is round two. We'll have Hillary Rodham Clinton in office, being the most crooked president of all time, replacing her husband. Problem I have with Donald Trump, though, is, to me, he's a bit of a screwball, a Fruit Loop trooper. He's out there. He's like, him and Jesse the Body Ventura would have a battle over who believes in more of these whacked out conspiracies. Sometimes he's sane and sober and he's right on, but other times you wonder, where are you going with this, Donald? Now, John McCain, he should recuse himself. Remember, he was down at the border when running against Barack Obama going, andale, andale. He was waving the checkered flag of the Indianapolis 500 with La Raza. Then all of a sudden he had to run for re-election. He was down there with the Minutemen saying, I'll shoot you between the eyes if you cross the border. So I don't know where John McCain's soul really is other than to try to get re-elected. And remember, he's the one who chose Sarah Palin, so forget about it, John McCain. But it does bother me and others that this Donald Trump is somebody that you just don't know where he's going to be from moment to moment, day to day, week to week, month to month. And that's disarming and alarming to a lot of Americans, and particularly the independents who are going to determine who the next president of the United States is. Not the hardcore apparatchik Republicans or Democrats. It's a vast number of independents out there who don't want to crook Hillary. But then again, they don't want a screwball like Donald Trump either.
Okay, now you just mentioned Hillary. Here's David from Evans, Washington on the line, who says it's crazy not to vote for Trump because it helps Hillary. David, you got 30 seconds.
Hey, thank you. You got a great show. Listen, there's 3 or 4 things that we have to understand as Americans. One is, if we do not put Donald Trump in office, all we're doing is putting in another legislator, congressman, whoever, and they're part of the party. We got to change this up, because we're going to get the same thing that we've got. They're all going to be on each other's side. We need Donald Trump. And if we do vote for anybody else, we might as well give it to Hillary Clinton.
Okay, I got you on that one. I only got time. Curtis, 20 seconds to you, my friend. End it out.
You know what's so interesting? When Trump thought he'd be robbed of the nomination, he said he'd go third party. That same caller and others would have voted for him on a third party. We need a viable third party, and a fourth and a fifth party. We need choices, and I don't feel we have choices this time around.
Anytime you want to go ahead and spread some great vocabulary here or throw around Altacocker again, my friend, you come on this show, because you and I, as kindred New Yorkers, we can understand exactly where that comes from. 77 WABC, best damn stick in the Northeast as well. That's where Curtis Sliwa is. Curtis, thanks a lot for joining us. If you want to go ahead and drop in some social media comments, you can do that. We advise you to do that all the time. But coming up next, telling it like it is, I'm going to go head on with those who call themselves responsible gun owners and should never be allowed near a weapon ever again.